Turmoil at Tullamarine, big headaches for Simon Goodwin, but the Eagles, they're back with a bang. Kane Corns, the round so far has been dominated by the Bombers, and there's no coach under more pressure than John Worsfold.
Who would have thought? What a disappointing, dreadful performance from the Bombers today. This is early on in the game. This is the side that got beaten by 72 points in round one. They were embarrassed last week, and they came out with this Merritt there. You'll see dropping his head in the contest. Very un-Essendon-like for a star player like Merritt. This is just the comical errors that they made. There's Francis kicking it into the back of his teammate. This is pre-season, day one sort of stuff. You wouldn't even see incidents like this. This is a round two game where they must win. Their coach is under pressure. And Mitch, you can handle it if there's the odd skill error, as long as they're having a crack. But you can't handle instances like this where they just completely give up. I mean, this one here is one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen on a football field. You've got three Bombers running off the field when the opposition have the ball and they allow them to run inside 50. I just haven't seen anything like that ever before. So with efforts like that come questions on the coach, and that's what will happen this week.
They were mauled last week and they were meant to come out and respond like that. They were booed by the Essendon fans in their first home game of the season. As you said, it's going to be big question marks at Tullamarine this week.
Yeah, I think, and they responded in the second half, but that's too late. They were beaten by a side who won 4 games last year, who are missing 3 of their better players in Carlisle and Hanbury and Robinson, who aren't there. McCartan's not there. So this is the Saints side that doesn't have the talent that Essendon have, but they had a crack, particularly early, and pretty tough for Essendon to come back after that 30-odd point deficit during the second quarter that it was. So they're massive question marks, and you've seen the clips. They got back into the game. Credit to them with that, but there was no response whatsoever from an Essendon side who was smashed last week.
They were meant to be quick, the Bombers, Fantasia, McDonald, Tip and Woody, but it was the Saints small forwards that did all the damage today. And you look at the guys like Jack Sinclair, Jack Loney, even Billings and Gresham, 26 and 28 touches respectively. They were on fire.
Oh, this was a great performance from St Kilda, so let's not take anything away from them because they didn't have the talent that Essendon had. But what they had is these guys here, you can see, having an absolute crack. 9 tackles for Sinclair. Thought Loney was terrific. His pressure, his numbers weren't outstanding, but his pressure today, this is a guy that didn't have a contract right through almost to the end of trade period last year. So they're small forwards. We know the class of Gresham. We know that of Billings, but I thought Sinclair and Loney in particular were so vital for St Kilda and gave them the opportunity to continually turn the ball over in their front half. Gresham
out of contract this year is just adding zeros to that deal. Now, we couldn't leave this out, the Josh Bruce mark in the first quarter. No Paddy McCartan in that forward line. It's a fair hang from Josh Bruce over the back of Michael Hurley, who had a tough day at the office.
Nice contender for Mark. You thought they had a good battle, those two there today, and that was a very nice highlight for some happy Saints fans today.
Sets up a big game next week, the Bombers and the Dees on Friday night. And gee, weren't the Dees wasteful tonight down in Geelong? A massive result, and the Cats go 2-0.
Hard to get a finger on what exactly is going wrong with the Dees at the moment, because you look at the numbers tonight, once again, an extraordinary set of numbers. 72 entries the Dees had today for 6 goals. Now, this is the third quarter. We're seeing the misses here. They kicked 5 points. They went inside 50 21 times for a score of 0 goals, 5. On the flip side, Geelong went in 10 times for 6 goals. So how efficient Geelong were, and you're seeing the vision here of how inefficient the Demons were in this game. So last year, Melbourne, one of the best scoring sides in the competition, certainly one of the best midfields. They averaged 101 points last year, Melbourne. This year, through 2 games, just the 53 points. So some real issues happening with their scoring, and Simon Goodwin's got some massive headaches on his hands.
The Cats youngsters were good last week, and Charlie Constable, 30 touches. Tim Kelly's only 25 games into his career, another 30 disposal game. We love this late in the game with the Cats. Tom Hawkins almost toying with the Melbourne's defence and handing off a first goal to Jordan Clark.
Yeah, I love this. I love this vision. I mean, Clark set it up for Hawkins. He's just strolling in. No Melbourne player pretty much in the camera screen. He hands it back and says, "Here, young fella, kick your first goal." But Geelong, what a story they are. You see the coach Chris Scott there, rightfully so happy. You look at their draw, you think, well, we've got Collingwood round 1. It's going to be tough. We've got Melbourne, top 4 last year. That's going to be tough as well. Well, they could not have had a better start. Love what they've done, the mix of youth and experience and the way that they've line their side up. You look at Rowan, who's not getting big numbers, but he never has, but he's playing a role, and Dowhouse has been impressive as well. So terrific start for Geelong, and hats off to them. I didn't expect them to start this well.
Massive pre-season for them. They've been doing 3-hour sessions for most of the summer. Now for the Dees, if it wasn't for Angus Brayshaw and Clayton Oliver, this could have got a whole lot worse. Clayton Oliver 44 touches, but this caught your eye in the first quarter.
No, it did. I just don't like it. Look at the score. It's 37-14 just before quarter time. Shocking start from Melbourne, and then he's gone in for a kiss. Look, if it's a grand final, you Luke Hodge on Buddy Franklin, you know you're going to win. Perhaps that's the only time I'd be pulling out a kiss. Certainly wouldn't be pulling it out in round two when you've been smashed in round one. You got smashed in round two. I reckon that's pretty embarrassing.
One man who might be allowed to give a kiss off in round two is Luke Shuey. He was our Saturday star in the Eagles' big win against the Giants. He left off after last year's grand final with a bang.
No, just a jet. He's just an absolute star. I'm not sure there's a weakness in his game. 28 disposals and 2 goals, 5 clearances, 6 score involvements. He just does it all. Now, they're going to get Gaff back next week. So this is a really important game for the Eagles, and they're pretty clinical in the way they went about it. Once again, they've uncovered some young talent themselves. Kennedy back in the side for his 200th game for the Eagles. So terrific clinical performance from the Eagles, who will now start to get rolling and get some personnel back, and Luke Shuey is a big reason for that.
Oscar Allen, one of those youngsters with 3 goals. Now, they unfurled the flag tonight in a bit of a novel way with the mascot involved. What did you take out of this?
I loved it. How good is it? That is spectacular. Now, it's hard to come up with new, innovative ways to do this, but that is outstanding with the Eagles mascot just bungee jumping from the grandstand. They had the real-life eagle as well flying in, so terrific scenes there at Optus. Looks like just a great venue, and pretty tough for opposition teams to go and win there. Not too many go and have much success.
Over in the City of Churches today, Carlton took it right up to Port Adelaide for 3 quarters, but it was the class of the power that got it done. Their youngsters involved in this passage late in the game.
Yeah, I just love this piece of play late. You look at here, the handball here from Butters. There it is. It's quick. Yeah, got to be quick to see it to Drew, who then squares it up to Dersma, who I thought was terrific today. And then over the back, Motlop, you'll see, run on to kick his second goal of the last quarter. So Rosie was important, particularly in the second quarter. He bobbed up the number 5 pick from last year, kicked a couple of goals, and those 3 involved again after an impressive debut. So a real bold move from Ken Hinkley to inject that youth in, and so far paying dividends.
A couple of headline injuries for our MLC injury update. Firstly, Charlie Curnow with a knee concern, and then Jack Watts, what is suspected to be a broken leg.
Feared the worst with that one initially with Curnow, just the way he went down. We've seen a couple like that this year, but I'm not sure what Carlton the update is, but they tried to strap him up and he was running, so you wouldn't think there's too much structural damage there, and it's a wait and see. I mean, this one's horrific. Ken Hinkley saying after the game that he thinks that is a suspected broken leg for Jack Watts, which could be the end of his season. And also Carl Amon injured his knee in the opening minutes of the game and took no further part. So a good win for Port Adelaide, but not without some carnage.
There's more injuries at the Tigers as well. Jack Riewoldt down with a wrist, adding to Alex Rance. And then if you throw in Dylan Grimes, who's set to miss a week with suspension, there's 6 Premiership Tigers on our graphic there.
It's a different challenge for Damien Hardwick, isn't it? I mean, he's had a pretty healthy squad, particularly the big 4, and you start to get some injuries. You get a pretty undisciplined act from Dylan Grimes, which will cost him a week, so he's going to have to rejig his defence. Look, I think their system will be good enough to cope with it, but some big question marks out of that game on Thursday night where Collingwood just dominated possession, didn't they? They were clinical in the way they went about it, and very un-Richmond-like performance, so they'll need to bounce back pretty quickly.
Biggest differential Richmond's conceded in their history on disposals. Now, a week for Grimes. Mason Cox, I reckon he's going to challenge this. We'll find out officially on Monday, but this is at the top of the goal square 3 minutes ago in that last quarter. Seems pretty light.
I went to Twitter to say it's the worst suspension I've ever seen. I pretty much stand by that. I reckon I've watched that 50 times and it doesn't get better for the match review officer when you watch it again. So we're all hoping, and we're hoping there's justice, that goes in and it takes him about 5 minutes to chuck it out and he'll be available, because we don't want to see the game's best players missing for pretty soft acts like that.
I don't think you're the only one on Twitter. There's a bit of outrage across competition. That's where we get to Mel Horsey. Mel, who's fired up about this one?
Yeah, look, all the chat on social media this weekend has been about the match review officer and that decision to suspend Mason Cox for a week. It's left plenty of people shaking their heads and scratching them even, and plenty of AFL players were in that bunch. Mitch Robinson, well, he's always one of the most vocal ones. He took to Twitter to say, hate to see the medical report, #play on. But of course, he wasn't the only one. Crow star Hugh Greenwood, a former basketballer himself, said he's seen Mason Cox set harder screens on a basketball court. So clearly not a fan of the decision. Now, speaking of courts, the Melbourne Vixens, they left a comment on the incident on Instagram saying they've seen harder bumps on a netball court. Now, netball is, of course, a non-contact sport, so they certainly haven't missed the match review officer there. But my favourite from all of these on the weekend was cricketer Michael Beers. I think he summed up the thoughts and feelings of footy fans by saying, if Dylan Grimes ran into the goalpost, would the goalpost get a week's ban? So, Mitch, Kane, fair to say, not a lot of love for Michael Christian on social media this weekend.
I think we'll learn a bit more about that one on Monday. Now, the controversy wasn't just on Thursday night. Friday night, we saw our first 100-metre penalty of the season. Colin O'Riordan from the Swans. Take us through this one, Kane.
Well, initially, it's not a 50-metre penalty in the first place. That is not worthy of a 50-metre penalty. That's a whistle-happy umpire that's just blown it for no reason. So that's the issue. So by the letter of the law, this is another 50-metre penalty because he didn't clear out. But we're not judging.
To get out of there.
We're not judging the umpire here. We're judging the rule. This is a shocking rule. Now, you watch the Sydney players here. You watch Jones involved here. By the letter of the law, that's another 50 there. It should have been 150 because the Swans players, including Rampy, haven't cleared out again. So if you're going to be consistent, that should have been 150, but I just can't stand the rule. There was no need to bring that rule in. You could argue that a 50-metre penalty on its own is too severe a penalty, let alone 100, let alone 150 as it should have been there. And then we're seeing other players, as we did on Friday night, we'll show that in a minute, trying to exploit this rule, which is also not a good look.
Jared McVeigh must have seen the Colin O'Riordan situation and tried to draw a bit of contact of his own.
This is what you get. Look, he's won the 50, and then you watch him veer off his line to try and deliberately make contact with a Crows player. That is what this rule has created. So players will try and exploit that. You saw McVeigh, who's a 300-game player, he's a veteran, he's a smart footballer, doing what a lot of others will do. So that's what you get when you bring in silly rules like this one.
Let's hope we don't see it across the rest of the round tomorrow. The Lions looking to go 2-0 against Melbourne. It was a big story of the Hawks as well.
Massive story. Congratulations to Tom Scully for making his return so quickly in Hawthorn colours. I mean, we were thinking if halfway through the year would be a great result for Scully with what they gave up for him, a future 4th-round pick. So Hawthorn have found another one.
Before Wingard.
Well, exactly. Wingard's still out injured as well, their marquee recruit. So hats off to the Hawks, and we wish Tom Scully all the best. He's clearly done a power of work. And then Gold Coast taking on Fremantle. They were okay last week, Gold Coast, but Fremantle were outstanding as well. So they're looking to continue their great start to the season. Jesse Hogan's first game.
Looking forward to that. Now, you put the acid on me last week with my performance in the rooms as part of AFL Nation. I think I might have redeemed myself, gone a bit of...
I'll be the judge of that.
Okay, well,
I'll be the judge.
it.
Go to the vision. Now, this is roaming Brian after Thursday night's game. Last week, Mitch Cleary was just brushed aside by the big dog, Brian Taylor. At least today, you've held your ground. Now, does he know your name yet?
Not yet.
Because last week he mated you, and he doesn't know your name there. But I like the fact that you've held your ground. The next progression for you is to say, BT, just get out of my space. This is my space. I own it. Get away. This is my time. So half a tick, I'll give you.
2 rounds in.
2 rounds in, long way to go.
Thanks for that, Kane. Thanks for that, Mel Horsey. We'll see you same place, same time next week on The Round So Far.